Hello designers! I'm Cassie LaBelle. I'm a former C Change editor and 4C student, and I'm here to create some videos for you. By now I'm sure that you've already seen Bob Foster's design tutorials on putting the C Change together. My videos are more to act as reference points for you. Bob gives a lot of great information and details on putting together spreads, editing images for the C Change, and putting the book together as a whole. While my videos are more to just be going over the key points as well as answering some commonly asked questions that the C Change staff and designers usually get throughout the process from the design staff. The first thing I want to reiterate though is how important it is to communicate with the C Change staff as a designer. If my video doesn't help you, or if Bob's videos don't help you, or you simply just have questions that weren't answered in any of these videos, feel more than free to ask not only your professors, Professor Griffin and Scott Anderson, but to ask, the C Change editor in charge or the design editor if you have one. The staff is more than happy to answer your questions because we get that this is a tedious process and it's all hands on deck. So communication is the most important thing to remember. So if you're the person who is in charge of putting together the book editor, congratulations. It's a big job, but it's definitely rewarding. It's a lot of double checking, a lot of making sure that what the designers themselves did for their pages are correct, and just making sure that everything's in order in the way that it should be before publication. So the first thing you're going to want to do once you're in InDesign is go up here to File, New, and you can make a new book. So you click Book, and you want to name it something that you're going to be able to find later on. So for example, I'm going to name mine Book Example. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Now, as the person who is in charge of putting the book together for the C Change, it's very important that you stay organized because you're going to be getting a lot of images that need to be saved to your computer, a lot of spreads that need to be saved to your computer, and it's just going to be overwhelming. So find a way of organization that works for you and stick to it. I usually just have folders within folders, and I find that that works for me. That's not even the right folder. So it's very important that you double check where things are going. So I'm going to upload that right there. And then just go back to InDesign here. Now, as you can see, this is a panel that you can kind of move around. I personally like to have my panels attached like that, but you can do whatever works for you. And what you're going to want to do is just start uploading files. So I'm going to go over here in my book panel, and I'm going to click the upload button. And I'm going to start uploading my files. So first I'm going to go with the front cover, open. Now, as you can see, I have the front cover open in InDesign already. These are two separate files now. The one that I have open is not the one that I have in the book document. You always want to make sure you're double clicking on your documents to open them. Now, you didn't see like a change because I went from front cover to front cover, but it did open the document in the book, and I'll show you an example once I upload the next one over here, which is the wheel and the front matter. See, I'm going to double click that, and it'll tell you if there's any fonts missing. You can change that. You can either find the fonts or choose to change that later, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to upload the rest of my files now. I just want to make a note that you can click and drag things to move them if they're out of order. You'll see my numbers on the side on the right aren't correct, and that's because I'm using examples from the past C Change where the numbers obviously were for a 40-page edition and not this short example that I have here. But the numbers that appear on your right are going to be in accordance to how many pages are in your book in total. So it's going to include things like the front cover and the table of contents that don't normally have page numbers on them. But when you double click and you see the pages themselves, you'll notice that they do feature numbers on the pages. So the content pages will have numbers, and that's why it's really important to make sure that when you're naming your spreads that you have the actual page numbers they'll be appearing on versus the page numbers that they are listed on in the book. That makes sense. Bookmaker, it's one of your jobs to double check the table of contents to make sure all of that's in order, as well as check the order of the pages that appear in the book and just make sure all of the spreads appear how the editor has them on the dummy sheet. And another thing that you need to do as the bookmaker is, as you can see right here, there is a little yellow triangle. Now that means a link is missing. Now if it's a little yellow triangle, that means a link is missing, but it exists saved in your computer somewhere. And you can either double click this little yellow triangle over here in the links panel, which you can find by clicking this little link symbol here, or you can double click the little yellow triangle right on the page itself, and it will find the image in your computer and just uploaded it without you having to do anything. Now, if that little yellow triangle was the little red question mark, that would mean that the image does not exist in your computer, and that's when you would have to get in contact with a designer to get that image saved. Now, as the person who is combining the book together for publication, it's very important that you just double check on all of the little style details that the editor has in place. For example, making sure that the title is the correct font by going to the properties pages, the correct font and size. I like this example where it shows the title and author in a separate box from the body text. A lot of times people will put the title and author in the body text, and it just makes it complicated because the title is usually a different size and font than the body text, and it kind of makes editing it a little hard. It's not a big deal if it's in there. It just is something that you want to make sure you're constantly double checking to make sure that it's what the editor has requested. That's something you want to double check. You also want to make sure you're double checking that on pages like this where there's color and images that will eventually end up going to the edge of the page when printed, like you can see here, that they go to this bleed line. Now, when you're the bookmaker, you want to make sure that you're going through all of the pages and make sure that all of the backgrounds are going to this bleed line. Otherwise, the color won't be at the edge of the page. And what that means is, as you can see with this image especially, when I drag it backwards, it leaves some space there. And you want it to be at this little red angle there. So, you just have to go through every page and make sure that all color backgrounds that are meant to be at the edge of the page and all images such as this one that are meant to be at the edge of the page versus an image such as this one where it's in the middle of the page, just that they all go to the bleed line. Another thing you'll be checking as the bookmaker, as opposed to just like sizes and fonts, is you want to make sure that, every title, if it's supposed to say by there, that every single one says by or doesn't say by. When it comes to art credits, that there's some consistency in the order of how things appear and such as that, however the editor requested it. And you also need to make sure, and again, this is something that the designers should have done before they sent it to you, but that doesn't always happen, that each picture is appearing in CMYK. So when you have this links panel open, you can click the images either on the page themselves, or it's easier usually just to click it over here and color space CMYK right down there. And you're just going to have to go through every page and make sure that they all say that. This picture is black and white, which is why it says RBG, but if the picture has color in it, you're going to want to make sure that that is something that is said there. This is a really colorful picture, for example, and that's CMYK. Now, you can also delete pages by clicking that page and highlighting it, and then clicking the little minus sign next to the plus sign that you would upload the documents in, and then that'll go away. Now, when you go to export your book, what you want to do is go down here and click Save. Now, for the sake of this example, it's not letting me save my book because the page numbering is off over here, which is something that I've been trying to fix, and it's not fixing for some reason, so I apologize for that. But as you can see, the white kind of fades away, so when it's actually saved, it'll look like that, and when I click OK, you'll see it go colorful again, and that's how you know it's not saved. So you want to make sure that you save your book and that it's not letting you do what it's not letting me do right now. And then you just want to go over here to this little icon in the corner. And you also want to make sure that you're not clicked on any page. If you're highlighting a page, it's not going to let you save the book to a PDF. So you want to click in some gray area, make sure no page spread is highlighted. Go to this icon, click Export Book to PDF. Make sure it's named and saved where you want it to. Click Save, and it's going to open this over here. Now what you want to do is you want to export either as spreads or pages. I had originally done it as spreads, and then the printer contacted us and said that they actually needed it pages this year, so I had to re-export as pages. You want to make sure it says export layers as visible printable layers. I like to click View PDF after exporting because I find that I find the most errors if I immediately scroll through the open PDF. I literally re-exported like 10 times in a row just by looking through this open PDF. So I highly recommend that you click View PDF after exporting, then go over to Marks and Bleeds. Make sure you go over to this printer's marks here and click Crop Marks and use Document Bleed Settings. And then you're just going to want to click Export. and it's going to export your pages for you. And you'll see once it's done that it pops up this little guy here where if it was a full book, you'd be able to scroll through and look for any errors. But that is basically how you export the book, and this is what you're going to send to the printer. I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope as the bookmaker that I answered a lot of your questions. Again, I stress communication. If you have any more questions, please get in contact with your professor or the SeaChange staff. We're more than happy to help. And I'm very excited to see the edition you're putting together, and I hope you are as well. It's very rewarding in the end to get it physically in hand. So I hope you're just as excited as I am, and I hope that this helped you. So thank you so much for watching.